Let's finish up the sign. First, we're going to add the lettering. You're going to go back to your tracing and transfer the lettering with some black graphite. For the Cockadoodle Coffee Company lettering, I just did a single line through the center of each letter rather than trying to outline the thick and thin. We're going to mix some water and a little puddle of black paint, and we're just going to line the words rise and shine at the top of the board and the establish and the year at the bottom. So I'm using like a number 2 or a 4 round brush. Just add a little water and reload your brush as needed. Once you get everything lined in, if you need to go back over the letters, just let them dry and go over one more time if you need to make them a little heavier or a little more even. Now we're going to do the Cockadoodle coffee letters, and I used some of our red paint and a little bit of the burnt sienna. You can play with the color, just pick a color that you like to go with your sign. And again, I'm using the round brush, but these letters are thick and thin, so I'm using my left hand to balance my paintbrush hand with, and referring to the colored image of the printed letters just to get an idea where I need to apply a little heavier pressure on the brush to make the letter thicker and lessen my pressure to make the letter thinner. Don't try to do the whole letter in one stroke. I usually find it easier to stroke in little sections. So kind of divide the letter up into a few pieces. Also, just reload your brush as needed and go through all your letters. I do hold the brush fairly perpendicular to the surface. These letters have just a little bit of a calligraphy look to them. So finish out all your letters, and again, if you need to go over them a second time, you can wait till they dry and add another layer. On these bottom letters, it's a little better angle for the camera to see what I'm doing. So here I'm just going to go over one more time just to give a little more coverage to the paint. Now if you find some spots where your paint got a little too heavy, you can just load a little small brush with some of the beige color and clean those letters up. Here I lost a little loop on my F. So I'm going to fill that back in with some beige and stroke over the letter again with the red. This might take a couple of coats to cover. Next, to add a little dimension to the letters, I do a little cast shadow to the left and bottom of each of the letters with black. Again, I'm using the small round brush and some black paint thinned with some water. And I'm painting this line on the background just to the left of the red. So I'm going around each letter in sections again to the left and bottom. So it gives the appearance that the light source is to the right side and gives these letters just a little more dimension. This is optional, you don't have to do it. Once that's done, we're going to take our spice, I think it's called Spice Pumpkin, and add a highlight to each of these red letters. And again, using a small brush, you can go to a liner for this, keep it thinner. And this color is on the red. So I'm drawing this orange line to the right on top of the red, but to the right edge of each of the letters. And you may need to repeat this a couple times if the orange isn't strong enough after it dries. So again, just go through each of your letters and add that little orange line to the right and top edges. Around the oval on the rooster, I'm going to do one more little step just to clean that edge up and take a fine tip black permanent marker and just outline. You could also do this with a black paint on a liner brush. And I'm going around the outside and the inside edge of that burnt sienna border. You do want to check and make sure your pen won't run when you put the Crackle Medium or varnish on later, so you can test that a little bit. I'm going to add a few accents to the distressed wood, so I'm just picking up some of the colors on the palette, some of the reds, and I think the reds and blacks to make kind of a purpley dark plum color. I'm going to add some of the orange, and then I'm just using a wet brush, wiping this on in a few spots, and then just taking a paper towel and wiping it back off just to leave a little faint accent of color. And again, this is optional. You can add these or not, and pick and choose the colors you want to emphasize. You can add a little blue with the orange, and that's going to give us kind of a green color. That will pick up some of the gold colors and green colors that we have in the rooster and the oval. Again, these are just very subtle. They're just a transparent wash of color. And I'm just applying them random. I don't have any plan of where these are going. I'm just kind of repeating the colors that we have in the rooster on the outer edge of the sign. So add as few or as many of these as you want. I decided to add a little bit more highlight to the rise and shine, the little black letters. I'm just taking some of the beige on a liner brush and just outlining through the middle of each letter, just to add a little more detail to them. So do that on the rise and shine and the establishing year. So now once our board is all finished and dry, we're going to add some Crackle Medium. This is the DecoArt One Step Crackle. And I just put a puddle out on my palette, and I'm using a big filbert brush to apply it. You want to put this on fairly heavily. The heavier it is, the bigger your little cracks will be. But this is a real fine eggshell crackle that looks more like something you'd see on an authentic vintage or antique piece. I'm putting this mostly on the weathered wood area where we want this distressed barnwood look. But I'm going to brush a little bit up into the oval with the rooster. I'm not going to put it on the rooster, just a little bit into this oval background. You can see I kind of scoop it up on the brush and brush it out, but don't try to brush it out too thin. So finish brushing this on the background, then you're going to set it aside and let it dry. I think the bottle says it'll take 3 to 4 hours, but I found it dried much faster than that. So here we are, the Crackle Medium's dry, and I've mixed up a wash of burnt umber and black. So just some burnt umber black and some water. And I'm going to brush this all over the background and kind of go in different directions because you really want to work this down into the cracks and the crackle. I'm not going totally over the rooster, just over the areas that I have the Crackle Medium. Then you're going to take a damp, say like paper towel or something, and just wipe that excess paint away. And we're wiping right down over the rooster, so that's going to add a little antiquing to him. So you can decide how much you want to wipe away. Like here you can see the paper towel is pretty dirty. I'm going to turn it over to a clean side and wipe a little more. And you can see that Crackle Medium still stays really shiny, so you're going to have a very variegated surface. I'll try to get closer so you can kind of see the effects of the crackle. You need that dark brown brushed over to go into those cracks to make them show up. So now that it's finished, you're going to let this dry, and then you're going to add a couple coats of your favorite varnish, and that'll even the finish out so you don't have shiny and dull spots. I like a matte varnish, but if you prefer a satin or gloss, that's okay. You know, that's a matter of personal choice. So I hope you enjoyed this project and that you'll come back and paint some more with me.